Мгм. Так, я себя тогда выключаю и буду потихоньку всех принимать.
Доброе утро.
Здравствуйте.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Hello.
Hello.
Hi, everyone. Guess we'll be starting in about a minute. Okay.
Hello.
Hi. Welcome. Okay, so I guess we can slowly start, right? Well, thank you for coming. Thank you for finding time. I hope you have your tea, coffee, whatever you need with you. Some maybe no pen, pencil, notebook or whatever, yeah, to make some notes. And today we talk about teenagers, right? So let me open my presentation. The topic is pretty big, but we'll try to cover it from different aspects. So I formulated it how to motivate and build rapport with teenagers. So before we start, I will present myself and say a few words. Yes, and I will try to explain why I'm here and why you should listen to me, right? So first of all, I'm a psychologist. So today I will be giving you some information about teenagers from the psychological point of view. I never worked as a psychologist or a counseling psychologist or therapist because I started teaching immediately after graduation. So I'm an English teacher and I've been teaching for quite many years. I do have some teaching qualifications, certificates, and currently I'm teaching and giving lectures on teaching methodology at the Institute of International Education of Moscow Pedagogical State University. Yeah, so that's a few facts about me. And before we start, I would like to know something about you, okay? So does everyone work with teenagers? And if you do, you can tell me maybe the ages you work with or grades you work with, okay? So you can turn on your microphone, tell me, or just write in the chat. Okay, so
I
what
read, but
Uh-huh.
I have only one class. It is 7th grade.
7th grade, okay,
Yeah,
good.
12 people.
12
teenagers.
Yeah, okay, thank you. 7th graders are tricky, right? Okay. Oh, from 12 to 18, that's quite a range. Senior grades. So we have all ranges from early teens to late teens. Good. Yeah, so I hope everything I will say will be relevant. And let me tell you about our plan today. So first of all, we'll talk about age ranges because, well, actually it's important to know who you teach, how old these students are. Then we'll talk about main characteristics of teenagers from different aspects, from emotional side, behavioral side, even from neuropsychological side, okay? By the way, at the end, I will give you some books that I could recommend, again, as a psychologist and as an English teacher. And we'll talk about motivation, so how to motivate students and some do's and don'ts, what is recommended to do and what is not recommended to do when you teach teenagers, okay? And another question for you, again, before we start, so maybe I will be able to answer while we go. What are the common maybe problems or challenges you face when teaching teenagers? Whatever ages you teach. So have you experienced any difficulties?
They always want to speak Russian.
Speak Russian, okay.
I mostly teach online, and I would say 98% of teenagers are reluctant to switch on their cameras.
Oh yeah, I know this.
That's a
Yeah.
problem, yeah.
Yeah, I also taught online for 2 years during the pandemic. I taught teenage groups, and every time I had to tell them, please turn on your cameras, please turn on your cameras, as if they forget completely, right? I'm reading in the chat, a lot of people are saying that there is no homework. Yeah, I didn't plan to talk specifically about homework, but we can. What we can do, actually, we can go through my presentation, and then maybe closer to the end, we can look at your case studies again. If you haven't found the answer to your question, maybe we can get back to this, and maybe I can come up with some more ideas, okay? They listen to their favorite music during the lesson. Oh, wow, that's interesting. Is it online or offline?
It was offline.
Offline, so in class, like face-to-face class, and they start
Yeah.
listening to me. Okay, how did they explain that? Why would they suddenly start listening to music?
Just it was the thing that make them be more confident and just be here in the classroom, not to skip the lesson, just something that support them, you know, their interest, something.
Well, that's interesting. Well, maybe I would like to know more details, but maybe later. Okay, let me just quickly run through the comments. No homework, no homework. Again, they don't want to do homework. They avoid interacting with peers, easily get bored, don't like to work in pairs, and often shy to speak about themselves aloud, and they prefer to draw. Well, not so bad, I think. Now I'm having a teenage student, 10th grade, a boy. He doesn't want to talk at all, and he doesn't want to draw. For every question I would ask, he would be saying something like, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. So if they draw, I think it's not that bad, you know. So, okay, let's start then, and then I hope I will be able to answer some of your questions. Who do we call a teenager? I mean, what are the age ranges? What do you think? How old should teenagers be to be called?
12 to 17.
Yeah, 12 to 17. And what about 19, 18? No?
Well, they're
Actually, young
considered to be
adults.
adult. Yeah, young adult.
Yeah, we hope, yeah, that they are young adults already, which is normally not the case. Well, technically speaking, if we talk from the linguistic point of view, this teen, yeah, 18, 17, 19 actually means adolescence. So classically, that would be 12, 13 up to 18, 19 years old. That's the, classical age range. Including younger adolescents and older adolescents, because usually there are like 2 or even 3 groups, those who are closer to young learners, something in the middle, and those who are like high school. However, you'll be surprised probably now, because I was. World Health Organization has extended adolescence to almost up to 23 years old now. It doesn't mean that, well, absolutely for sure, if they are 22, 21, they are like behaving like adolescents. But what we see is that even at the age of 20 plus, students might be behaving in a way that is more common for adolescents rather than adults. I'm not saying everyone will do that, but there are tendencies, let's put it this way. And what is even more interesting, and I would say a bit scary, is that the lower range starts now from 9, 10. Again, what does it mean? It doesn't mean that at the age of 9, he suddenly becomes a teenager. No, it means that first signs of puberty you can already see at the age of 9. So if you have your kids, of course, you know your kids better than your students. Many parents say that, yes, that's true. And there are, signals, symptoms, whatever, typical for adolescents rather than nice, sweet kids that we normally have. So if you look at this, and if you imagine the teenage is from 9 to 23, that's like, I don't know, half of the life, basically, or 1/3 of the life. So that's a long period. So it's even more important to know what's happening during this period and how we can deal with this and like what to do. So a few facts before we continue. First of all, some decades ago, puberty as a term, as a concept, didn't exist at all. So now we're talking about, signs of puberty and typical behavior and, cognitive, emotional and other things. But let's say several decades ago, even the term didn't exist. So as a period of between childhood and adulthood, the term appeared only in the middle of the 20th century. Because, well, society was changing, everything was changing, right? So, and before that, kids would immediately start working, or they would be put into, very adult-like conditions. Now we have this period when, we understand they're not kids anymore, but they need this period of, growing up and, becoming adults. So this is basically puberty. So I like this. It's not a quote, but it's a saying, which I found online, that who's a teenager? If you Google, you'll find this kind of a picture. Teenagers are too young for half of things they want to do. Imagine, yeah? So something like adults will be doing, drinking, smoking, driving a car, and having all that other things. And they're too old for the other half, like behaving like a child, running around, doing stupid things. Yeah, and so they are somewhere in between. And it gives them a lot of dissonance, right? And a lot of kind of discrepancy. So yeah, that's what we have with teenagers. If we look at this from the point of view of teachers or parents, it's all about balance, right? That we need to give them. First of all, teenagers ask for freedom, and they, seek freedom, and they need it. And this is where all these ideas of I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that, I want to come home late, I will be late for a class, I will be do what I want. That's the, symptoms of give me freedom, behavior. Before teenagers, before adolescence, usually the child does what he's told, right? I think you will agree with me. So, and there are not many problems because kids actually need guidance. You tell them, I don't know, help me here, they will help. I don't know, homework, they will be doing it. Let's go home, they go home. Of course, they will argue, but still, parental figure is the biggest in a child's life. Teenagers are not like this, and it's good because like evolutionarily speaking, historically speaking, adolescence is the period when a child separates from parents. And the only way to separate from a parent and to become an independent, personality is to get this freedom and to stop, following all the guidelines the parents give. So it's not because they are rebellious to make you angry, or just because, what in Russian we call nazlo, right? So that's not the point. It's just what they are doing to become a separate adult person. So this is freedom. And the other side of this balance is boundaries. Because they don't have social maturity yet, adolescents, they don't really fully understand what is allowed, what is good, what is not. They cannot always control their actions. And they need to be kind of guided in a way. So, and you see, there is always this balance between how to let them go and how to keep them, in control. And this is the biggest problem, actually. For example, with what you said earlier, they don't do homework. They don't do homework. It's what they are doing to show you that they're free. They're like, I want to do what I want. But at the same time, you want them to do it because this is the boundaries you set. And where is this balance? Will you let them not do it? Or would you push them to do it? I think there is no correct answer here because all teachers decide for themselves. For me, I often, I'm fine if they're not ready with homework, if they tell me why they're not ready. And we can discuss this. And so my point is more freedom here than boundaries. But again, it's up to you. I can't tell you what is the correct way. You know your students better. Now, a few more things about teenagers. Have you heard of identity crisis, the term? Does it ring the bell?
Maybe just aware. I'm aware of this.
Yeah, what could it be, identity crisis?
They're looking for their future profession. They may be looking for their style of hair, clothes, and they're trying to find true friends and maybe the correct occupation for them, just which helps them feel, reveal their feelings, like, is it about drawing or sport, something like they're searching. Yes?
Yeah, a good word, search here, because they're always in the search of who they are, who they want to be. Exactly. And it might be occupational things if we talk about high school. If we talk about younger teenagers, of course, they're not thinking about job or, profession yet, but they might be thinking what kind of music they like or what food they like, right? So, this is identity crisis. Easily speaking, they are looking for their place in life, because let's be honest, before, let's say, the age of, 10, 12, parents were telling them often what is good for them, what might be interesting for them, right? And all these extracurricular classes, dancing, music, sports, it's not that a 5-year-old child suddenly decides, oh, I would like to go swimming. It's usually the parent, right? So, Of course, there are kids who are more self-aware and they would, I would like to try this, even small kids. But normally, before adolescence, kids are told by parents or teachers, and they're fine with that. Adolescence is the period when they, even if they're told, they might be suddenly changing their minds and opinions. You know, when he suddenly wakes up and says, I don't like music anymore, so I'll drop school, music school, you know, suddenly after, I don't know, 7 years. This is identity crisis, and it's fine because it's a part of development. I'm not saying they should drop out of school, but I'm saying that these thoughts are valid. They have a lot of doubts about everything. Is this good? Is this not? Do I like it? I don't like it. Today I like this, tomorrow I like that. Sometimes I notice that, you know, there is this period, maybe at the age of 12, 13, or maybe 14, when before summer, it's like you have one child, and then 3 months later, they come back to your class and you see that they've changed and they have other, you know, thoughts, ideas, and suddenly they're different. It's very interesting, well, for me. And identity crisis is all about questions. What can I do? What cannot I do? So this is testing the grounds, social grounds, testing, you know, the boundaries of parents and teachers. Again, coming back to, I don't want to do homework. Basically, it's a little test for you. So what will happen if I don't do my homework? What will the teacher do? You see, right? Or my mom told me to come back at 10 and I will come back at 11. Let's see what will happen. Can I do it or not? I'm exaggerating a bit, yeah, but there could be this way of trying out different things and seeing what will happen. If we talk about classroom, not family, but classroom, one of the strategies here, I don't have it on the slide, but I'll just say it, to create a behavioral code or code of conduct. You know, you need to do this, or I expect you to do this. And then the consequences. So if you don't do this, what will happen? I'm not saying you need to punish them, but there might be consequences. You might say that if they're not ready with their homework, you will not let them play a game that they like or something like this. So kind of a punishment. Or it could be anything else. But if you have a code of conduct in your classroom, then make sure you follow it. So if you told them, if you don't do your homework, something will happen, some consequences. So make sure you actually do this. Otherwise, they will test the grounds. They will see, she promised, she didn't do anything. Well, so why should I do my homework? Well, there is no punishment anyway. So that's one of the things. I never did that, honestly, but I often tell them what I expect from them. I don't say about punishment or consequences, but I say that, well, I expect you to do this, and that, because this and that. Well, that's how I'm used to working. And as I said, identity crisis is also about changes in interests and behavior. Parents often notice that, well, teachers maybe not so often notice, but it's still, often happens. And another element that is important is adolescent egocentrism. The word egocentrism, have you seen this before? Yeah? Yeah, it's a psychological term. It's not egoism, okay? So don't mix it up. You might say teenagers are egoistic, but come on, all people are egoistic in some way. Egocentrism, it's about where the center of attention is. So there are three interesting things here. Adolescent egocentrism is characterized by imaginary audience. It means that they always think that people are watching them. Someone is watching and someone is judging, you know? Even if, well, as adults, I think we know that actually no one cares. Everyone care about themselves, right? But teenagers think that the moment they come to class or come to the board, everyone will be laughing at them or judging them or So shy students, for them, it will be a problem. Students who seek attention, they will, like it. These students who specifically want to attract attention because they think everyone will be engaged. So yeah, imaginary audience. Then self-absorption. They think about themselves. They are the center of their, universe. For children, the center of their universe is usually the parent or the teacher, favorite teacher. Teenagers suddenly become all about themselves. So that's why it's a bit of egoistic as well. They would be saying, I want this. You don't understand me because it's me. It's all about, yeah, you understand. So a lot of thoughts about themselves. Who am I and what I like and what I want. And so everything about me. And finally, personal fable. It's interesting. It means that teenagers create, not create, but they think that their story of their life is super unique. They have this fable and no one ever in the world experienced what they're going through. This, you don't know what I feel, or you have no idea what I'm going through. I remember when my parents told me that I had the same, I would be like, how do you know? How could you have the same? I'm very special and unique, right? It's also part of the process. Have you noticed any of what I mentioned about egocentrism or about identity crisis? Yeah?
Everything.
Everything. Good. Right. So, well, because that's the classical characteristics, psychological characteristics. Now, let's talk about emotions. Have you noticed that teenagers are pretty emotional?
Yeah.
Have you noticed it about some particular ages, or it doesn't matter? So all of them are pretty emotional.
Well, I think the most emotional students are between 14 and 16, I would say.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, all of them are pretty emotional because emotions are very important at this period. I'll tell you why. It's connected with the brain development. But what we notice is that when they're young teens, so they're closer to young learners, and their emotions are very, I would say, sincere, like kids have, and they would also like to play, and they will express this, like 5th graders, maybe 4th, 5th graders. When you go to middle school, this is the period where the emotions can be not as expected, maybe, and they start doing things that are maybe weird, and they react maybe a bit unexpectedly. They can suddenly get angry or suddenly get happy and start laughing out of nowhere, right? Because everything is funny suddenly. So any idea why this is happening?
Because of their psychological development, maybe due to the age. This age, they are quite vulnerable.
Yeah.
Hormonal surges.
Yeah, exactly. Hormones and brain, it all contributes. So a few words, I'll quickly explain without going into detail why is that. So hormonal changes. Funny thing, in the past, I thought that teenagers have bigger hormones than adults. However, recently I read in a book that actually the levels are the same. So if you measure, it's not like they have peaks of hormones, but because they are not able to deal with these hormonal changes very well, like adults, it looks like it's stronger, but it's not really in this stronger amount. For them, it's just too much to handle, you see? But by the time we become adults, we already learn how to handle our, ups and downs and hormones. So for them, it's just difficult to deal with that. So what is happening with teenage brain? Let me just check the microphone. Yeah, okay. So the limbic system, it's actually what a lot of psychologists call reptile brain, reptilny mozg. Yeah, you've heard it everywhere now. It's, well, a lot of people talk about it. So it's old system that we get from our ancestors. It is formed early and faster in adolescence, I mean, than prefrontal cortex. Prefrontal cortex, that's the neocortex, that's the more recent cortex, новая кора, новый мозг, да, so the new brain. So what happens, this older system is responsible for emotions, whereas new cortex or later areas, I mean, that developed evolutionarily later, it's responsible for planning, self-regulation, and self-control. So what happens? Because limbic system is developing faster and more at this period, impulses are strong, emotional impulses, but self-regulation to deal with them is low. So it's not because they are, I don't know, stupid, or they don't want to do something, or they simply cannot deal with this, right? So, I mean, it's not their fault very often, right? So strong emotional impulses and very low control of these impulses. So as a result, what do we get? We get emotional swings. Sometimes she's happy, then she's sad, and suddenly very emotionally flat, you know, when he's sitting like this, whatever, right? So this is actually can be connected with physical development. I'll mention it later. Emotional vulnerability, right, Natalie, you mentioned that. So this means that they get hurt quickly. I remember once I mentioned to my, in a group, where I had a group of students, and I mentioned aloud to a teenager that, oh, computer games are stupid, and she's a gamer. She's like, you know, she would be like, what do you mean? Actually, that hurts. Don't say that. Well, she was a little bit playing with me, but she was really like, what do you mean it's stupid? I do it like 10 hours a day. That's important for me. Another girl, I just, because these are vivid examples, I remember, I don't teach this group anymore, but I taught them for many years. The girl likes horse riding. I'm afraid of horses. So, and I don't like horses very much. And I wouldn't lie that, Pauline, I love horses so much. So I would honestly say that, oh, I'm not a big fan. And she would be like, what do you mean? I mean, horses are the best animals, Kate, how, like, and you don't understand or something. And they take it very personally, right? So vulnerability. They need emotional support and acceptance, actually, because of the previous point, right? So then, because emotions happen very often without a lot of control, and generally emotions are not very controllable, they can't understand what's going on, and they can't manage that. This can be tiring, because imagine, like, suddenly I become happy, then I become sad, and I don't even understand what's going on. Again, of course they understand a lot of things, but often they don't. And what I heard from teenagers and what I read is that teenagers often feel they are weird, or they are different from others. And they think that there is something wrong with me. And the problem here is that when they don't tell anyone about this, so they think they have to deal with this themselves, right? Here I would recommend to watch your teens and notice this emotional swings, or notice some changes and address them. So do not ignore, especially when you see that you should notice changes and notice if something lasts for a long time. It's not like, oh, just he's happy and sad, or it's quick. But if you notice that your student is usually very friendly and nice, and suddenly he gets angry or grumpy, or maybe rude or gloomy, you need to address this. Maybe talk to the student or talk to parents. I had these situations. I had actually pretty severe cases where it turned out one girl was even self-harming herself, and we had to look for a psychotherapist. So another girl, I noticed changes when she started wearing all black, and she dyed her hair black. She was blonde. One day she became, all black, and she was wearing a hoodie with, the hood, all black jeans and everything. I thought that's just a phase. I looked and watched her for a week or so, and then addressed it. And it turned out her best friend left for another country, and she was pretty upset. And she actually wanted to talk about it. I had a situation when a boy, a very lovely, sweet boy, suddenly became rude, aggressive to me and other students. And that was very unexpected. So there was a sudden change. And I talked to him. He wouldn't say anything. So I talked to his mom. And it turned out they were having family problems, like divorce, or so dad was leaving or something, and the boy was bringing it to the classroom, you see. So that's how it works. So what to do? Yeah, I should probably tell you what to do. As I said, watch them, of course, notice. But as for emotions, generally for teenagers, it's very important to have this accepting, non-judgmental atmosphere, because, well, I think it's clear why. Then it's a good idea to teach them manage emotions. However, from my experience, I know that not many adults know how to manage their emotions, so we're not good. Emotional intelligence is not very high in Russians, I think, in general, because I think you would agree, when you were younger, probably your parents told you, like, don't cry, don't be angry. We were blocking emotions. So at least in my family, it was like this. So what I see is that I'm not really good at managing my emotions. Why would I expect teenagers to be able to do it, right? However, if you know some strategies how to deal with anger or with frustration or with sadness, because there are techniques, of course, maybe you can help your students. I'll give you some very small, pieces of advice, but if you are interested in this, of course, you can help your students. Also here we talk about empathy and empathic listening, because it's part of emotional intelligence. It's not just you care about them. You need to make sure that they care about each other and they become nice, or they show their interest to each other. So that's important to somehow create the atmosphere when teenagers care about lives of other students, because usually they care about themselves. So here you can have some pair work where they share, and you maybe teach them how to react in English. Because what usually happens, one person shares, the other person is sitting there, okay, off you go, right? So he doesn't do anything. But what I do, I tell them that even nodding is a part of, reaction. You never just silently look at the person, with a poker face. In real life, you need to react. And this is part of empathic listening, saying that, oh, I understand. Yeah, I had something similar. Or something. You can give these phrases, and this could be part of your functional language. Yeah, so you teach English, but you teach kind of phrases about emotions. Why not? And when you read texts or listen to whatever audios, watch videos, you can also talk a little bit more about emotions, because what we often do with texts, we do these comprehension questions. What is the text about? What did it say? Like, where do they live? And so on and so forth. We talk about facts. However, a lot of texts have, this emotional connotation, how the author feels, why is he sad? In modern books, you'll see more and more tasks like this. What is the author feeling? Why is the author sad, right? Even with kids, you will see in kids' books, I don't know, the boy lost his toy. What does he feel? Or how does he feel, right? What would you do? What would you say? Oh, poor you, and so on. There are even small dialogues to support, each other. So this is all good. If you're not doing it or never doing it or not doing it often, please, include it into your lessons. And role plays can be also good strategy, emotional role plays. When you do a typical role play, I don't know, a dialogue, but you give an emotional role. So you are playing your role, but you are a bored person. You are playing the role of a super happy person, and you are angry and you are sad, So you do the same as you would normally do, just add the emotional component. What is good here is that they can play out their own emotions. You can even tell them, choose the emotion, who you want to be today. Do you want to be, I don't know, maybe they role play child and parent dialogue. So what kind of parent do you want to be today? Do you want to be an angry parent, or you want to be a happy parent, or a friendly parent, whatever, right? So they pick, and very often it's a projection of their families or how they feel. So they will play it out. It's very therapeutic, actually. So, and it's not much trouble for teachers to do it. You just do whatever you already do and just add emotional components. And here, what is super important, be emotionally accessible yourself. It's like when they come and share, do not, ignore. Of course, the distance is always different. I can't tell you how to behave, but my students, teenagers, could even text me if they had a personal question, because they know I'm a psychologist, and they would say, Kate, what should I do if my mom, or if my granny, or if something? I tried to be very ethical, but if I could say something useful, I would. Another thing that I do, and you can tell me if you do it, I often start lessons with tracking their emotions. How are you feeling today? If you do it online, it's super easy. You can find any emotional chart like this or any other with the smileys or faces or, I don't know, different pictures, and they need to pick. So this would look like this. So they would pick a face that would illustrate their emotion. As you see, tired was pretty common state of my group. Yeah. So if you are not teaching online, if it's face to face, you can still print the pictures, or you can show it maybe on a bigger printed out picture, or the easy way, ask them to draw. How are you feeling today? Draw it. Simple. It will take you 1 minute, and you can ask them to share their drawings with each other if they want, or name how they feel. This is actually where you can start teaching emotions, right? So again, good for language development. This one, I did it several times. It's fun. If you see that your group is not really into English, they are, I don't know, tired, bored, it's the end of the year, they're like, you try to do something and they are not very engaged. You can do something like a worry cup. You can draw this or print it out, something like this, and you ask them to write down all their worries inside the cup. What they can do later, we did it. You ask them to do it, and then they think, it's a serious work, they start doing it, and then you say, okay, guys, now do this. Oh, they will be so happy. They will be so happy to destroy their worries. Okay, so easy thing to do. Works with different ages. Older teens can be a bit skeptical. They would be, no, I'm not a child. But usually it's only the beginning. When they start writing, they understand that, oh, I have a lot of worries, surprisingly. Also, you can do it with them. You can say, guys, I'm also going to do that. And actually, it's useful. If you give them the model, they actually usually follow. Yeah, you might have the skeptical looks. Some of them would say, I'm not worried about anything. Okay, change worry cup into happy cup or whatever cup. Yeah, let them write all their good things if they have no worries. So another thing, I had it several times with teens dealing with anger. Because teenagers often get angry. I mean, people often get angry in general, but for teenagers, it can be very destructive. They don't know how to deal with that. You know, all this throwing things or breaking things. I'm not saying it should be super strong, but sometimes you see that actually some students can be doing like this, just in the middle of the lesson, you know? This is a bit of aggression coming out. So there might be some aggression on anger inside. Some kids can be always breaking things, you know, breaking pens or pencils, or they can be doing something with their pens, you know, drawing, you know, like not sketching even, but doodling. But you see that it's a bit of a strong pressure on the paper. It's also kind of maybe negative emotions, could be anger or stress, or well, it's something usually on the negative spectrum. So you can discuss what to do. You can give them different strategies. And then I did it on mirror board. So all these colorful pieces were movable, and they had to work in groups and decide which of these are for like to deal with anger in a smart way or not smart way. And for example, throw something. Well, it depends on what you throw. If you throw an iPhone, that's not very smart. If you throw, I don't know, a fluffy toy, and no one's gonna get hurt, and it's fine, then it's actually quite productive. Stomping your feet, right? And you can ask them to stand up and do it. You can discuss, and then you can even do it. Yeah. With teenagers, it's good to ask them, would you like to do it now? Because with kids, you would ask them, okay, stand up and stomp your feet. With teens, maybe giving them kind of a choice. Guys, would you like to do that? Maybe someone will say no, but it's still, you can try do that. You can do similar activities with any other emotion, right? How do you deal with being stressed or tired or whatever? And then they can give you variants, you can give them, you can discuss and so on. So how do you feel about this? Would you try any of this?
Yeah, interesting idea.
Good. Now, interesting thing, I have my blog, teeny tiny small blog on Instagram. Some time ago, I asked, well, my followers things, because they're teachers, my followers, I mean, I asked, what do you share with your students? Whether you share certain things or not. So I asked whether students know about their hobbies. 85% that yes, and I'm pretty sure your teenagers know what you like. Well, at least some things, right? Then, what about books that you read? The answer was 82% said that, yeah, I mean, we share books. Do you ever share maybe an interesting book you read or film? Yeah, I mean, pretty safe, right, to share. Music preferences could be. Travel stories, of course, right? Because I think that's what we always do. Now, can you imagine, the next question was, how much emotions do you share? Do you share your emotional state? What was the percentage? What do you think?
Vice versa to others?
Yeah, it was closer to, I mean, it was the opposite. At the beginning, it was, I think, 25%. So it was really the opposite. Then it turned up to around 50, which still, I think, is lower than the, you know, all other things. So what do? We tend to hide our feelings and worries and emotions. And there is this stereotype, especially, I mean, I think it's a Russian thing, that when we come to class, we need to be always happy, right? But what I noticed is that if I share how I feel, they share too. Especially with teenagers, it's important, because otherwise they feel you are getting too personal. What they see is like, she keeps asking us, but she's not telling about herself. Why would I answer? But if it's you share, they share, then it's they become more open. So what I can do, and I know that sometimes some teachers said that it's kind of weird, I can tell my students, guys, you know, I'm so tired today. I'm sorry. And I know we wanted to do this active thing, but can we do it a bit later or not do it today? So I would negotiate. Or if I see that they are, you know, becoming naughty or noisy or doing stuff, and I'm like exhausted, because it's usually after school, extracurricular classes. I usually had classes around 8 p.m. I'm tired, they are tired, and I can openly say, guys, I had such a long, difficult day. Can you please, you know, lower the whole thing going on? Sometimes if, well, if I did my job well, they might even ask, oh, and what happened? What's wrong with you? And I feel that this is my personal victory, because they share, and I think that's cool. So if you share, they will. What else you can do considering emotions? There will be different phrases here that I normally use. You can talk about emotions. You can use emotions to express your attitude to something. You can use I messages. So let me give you examples, you will understand. Instead of saying, oh, you did this very well, another way to put it is, I liked the way you did it, or it made me very happy that you did this and that. So you share how you feel, and it's called an I message. I feel this and that. It could be positive, or it could be negative. About homework, that's what I say. Instead of saying, why didn't you do your homework, la la la, blah blah blah. Well, no one likes nagging. I would say, guys, it makes me really sad that you're not ready today. I wanted to play a game with you, and now we have to spend this time to do the things you were actually supposed to be doing at home, and we can't skip it. I'm so sad. And they would be like, oh yeah, that's bad. I mean, it's a bit of manipulation, but it works, because you don't judge. You don't say that you are bad students. You're saying, I'm sad. If they respect you, they would normally react, and they don't want to make you sad, right? You can pick your own way to say it if you feel comfortable saying these things, but I do. Then I can, I see that you've progressed a lot in, well, that's just a regular feedback, I think. Oh, yeah, that's, let me think what I meant here. That's about, instead of judging or giving my idea that you didn't do your homework, you didn't spend enough time, I see that it's not good. I would be asking questions, something like, well, it looks like you didn't spend enough time on your homework. Am I right? Maybe I'm wrong. I'm sorry. Right? So again, you don't want to hurt them because they're vulnerable. They might lie and say, no, I did it for 3 hours. I said, okay, fine. You can still pretend you believe. A lot of them would say, yeah, I was busy, you know. And then they might even share what they were busy with, you know. Then if you want to share someone's personal story, someone's paper with the whole class, I would also ask here not to hurt anyone's feelings, because sometimes we demonstrate someone's paper or someone's result, and I would normally ask, like, for example, Kate, is it okay if I share your paper with everyone? There were some good ideas there. Or even if there are mistakes, you still can ask, is it okay if I share what you said or what you told me, whatever. So again, you do it as if you were teaching adults and you want to be polite, right? So yes, and even now it's recommended, I don't say you should do it, but it's recommended kind of to ask permission a bit. So is it okay if I share what was wrong or what I didn't like? It's more a bit coaching strategies, you know, psychotherapeutic coaching strategies. You don't have to do it. You can still just give your feedback, or you may ask if they are okay. Why do you ask this? Because this is how they tune in feedback. So you ask them, is it okay if I give you some feedback? What was good and not good? If they say yes, it's kind of they promise to listen carefully. Otherwise, they would be like, yeah, keep talking, keep talking. Right, a few words about cognitive development. What do you think? How is their cognition going? What's happening with their cognitive development?
They grow smarter.
It's like more analytical.
Becomes more analytical, yeah.
Also, they can catch very quick interest in something and spend a lot of time on it, but maybe not ready with their homework. And so,
yeah,
again, maybe become frustrated.
Yeah, and they get distracted easily. It's like, oh, something happened, TikTok, Instagram. But again, let's be honest, we also scroll Instagram. And how often can you tell yourself, okay, I stop and now I do the things I need to do? We also have control issues. And we expect teenagers to stop scrolling and do their homework. Come on, let's be honest, right? Even adults can do that. So cognitive development, one of the biggest things that happens here is that abstract thinking starts developing. Again, if you talk about younger teens, that would be more concrete thinking, high school abstract thinking. What does it mean? It means the topic that you choose, you don't discuss abstract things normally with younger teens, because they wouldn't be able to, you know, have this imagination kind of what if. They don't need what if, they need tell me about, right? With high school, what if questions, hypothetical situations, they work nicely because they can already have this abstract thoughts. And actually, they always have opinions, even if they're stupid, they do have opinions. They are very opinionated, modern teens. So why not to ask them? What is interesting, coming back to emotions, is that very often emotions interfere with cognition. And if emotions are strong, cognition gets, you know, kind of, it disappears. So sometimes it looks like they make stupid mistakes or they say stupid things because they got overwhelmed. Emotions override cognition in adolescence. The older they become, the better control of emotions and of cognition they get, of course. And as for logic and cognitive development, it's good for school, so they can apply logic, yeah, but as for personal problems, not yet, usually. For example, when parents say something like, what are you doing? Don't you understand that it's stupid, it's not logical? Maybe they don't understand, because mathematics or, I don't know, physics or other school stuff, they can apply logic. But as for other life things, not yet. Again, different ages would differ, but I'm a bit generalizing here. What to do? Here, to develop their cognitive abilities, encourage discussions on different topics, even if they have nothing to say. You can help them to brainstorm, to give ideas, and you should start it early, because usually high school students already have opinions and ideas. If you talk about middle school, younger teens, they often have nothing to say. So you need to encourage at least to say something to, you know, maybe remember some things that happened. They often rely on the experience. So if you ask them, I don't know, about something, you probably should pick topics with younger teens that they can refer to. So you don't talk about politics or environment. You talk about school canteen, I don't know, summer holidays at their grandmother's house or whatever, right? So something they can refer to, and then they can have opinion about it. What else? Evaluating what happened or what they said. It helps to develop cognitive, you know, abilities, and it also helps to how we put it, self-assessment, right? What did I say? Why did I say that? Is it correct? Is it not? It actually concerns speaking and writing as well. What happens when they write often? I'm done. And they give you the paper just to get rid of it. And you ask them, could you please look at it again? Maybe you can add something. No, I'm done. So keep encouraging them to add, to improve, to, critically look at your paper. You can do this exchange of papers with other students, so they evaluate each other. However, teenagers have difficulty evaluating because, as you probably know, teenagers are all about peers. They respect their friends very much. So if they need to evaluate their friend's paper, they would be saying, oh, it's all good, it's perfect paper, even if it's horrible. So you need to give evaluation criteria. Otherwise, they would just give a very superficial assessment. Yeah, so you can say, please look at the grammar, at the vocabulary, at the ideas, evaluate each point from, I don't know, from 1 to 5. So they evaluate each other and themselves, of course. Of course, students have to share ideas, and cognitive level is also connected with goal setting. So you can help them set goals, not just, I come here 2 times a week because I have to, because it's in my timetable. While you're learning English, what's the bigger goal? With teenagers, it's good to talk about goals. Even with younger teens, it's still possible. One interesting thing that I also recently found, it's about prospective memory. I don't know if you're familiar with this prospective memory. Prospective memory, it's when a person, well, here it says that, ability to keep in mind the intention to perform a certain action in the future. So basically, keeping promises. I will call you because I said so that I would. This is prospective memory. Research has found that prospective memory develops and becomes effective first at the age of 6 to 10 and then after 20. So basically, at the age of the age we are talking about, prospective memory is not that strong. So if your students forget to bring their paper or forget to do what they promised, it's not because they are so naughty and nasty and they don't like you or something else. Simply, maybe it's because their frontal lobes are not there yet. They cannot do it. Okay, so don't take it personally. You can just keep in mind. So maybe it's just poor prospective memory. So at the age of 10, 14, ability to remember to do something simply doesn't keep up with the rest of growth and development. Okay, so what else I'd say here about multitasking? Teens and young adults, they usually say that, oh, I'm good at multitasking. I can watch TikTok, scroll Instagram, I don't know, listen to music and do homework. And it will not influence the quality. They're so sure about that. Of course, we all understand that it's not true because even adults are not so good at multitasking. Multitasking is possible when things are easy. I mean, if you wash the dishes and watch a film, you can do that. But if you are doing, I don't know, grammar translation exercise or whatever, doing an English test and then doing something else, and test is difficult for you, then multitasking is not an option. There's been some research that shows that multitasking actually interferes with learning for teens specifically. And it takes some percent more time to complete their homework. Can you guess how much more percent it takes?
90.
90, It was shocking for me.
Oh,
Shocking, yeah. I mean, I don't even know how it's possible, 400%. So it's like four times more. But I remember myself when I was a teenager, I liked to do my homework with with the TV on, because my parents were always at work and I was on my own. And I thought, why not to watch some stupid stuff on television? And only later I realized how tired it made me and how longer time I spent on doing homework actually. So if your students keep saying, no, I'm good at multitasking, you can actually give them some research, some data, because what is interesting, teenagers like facts. It's not like, oh, don't do it because I told you so. You can say that, you know, psychologists found out, and you can find research and give them the numbers. And they like when it's proved, you know. So you can refer to data and say, I'm sorry, but it looks like multitasking is not good for you. They might still continue multitasking, but you might have a small chance they will stop. What else to do? I would recommend, remove multitasking, help with planning, because they are not so good at planning yet, right? Short-term goals, long-term goals. They know they have exam at the end of the year, for example, Языковая, right? State exam. Do you think they keep thinking about it every day and they think that everything they do is for Языковая? No, of course not. It's like, I have so much time left. Why to worry? 2 months before, oh, could we please learn everything from the beginning? I don't remember anything. So they're not good at planning. Help them. You can set dates. Every month we need to do these, and that. You can create a portfolio, right? Maybe collect all the papers they write, or all the tests they do, and keep progress. You can even draw a graph how their progress grows, or how it goes up and down, to visualize what's happening. Otherwise, they can't keep focus. It's too far away. Prioritize here, for example, what is more important. For example, doing grammar for exam is more important than, I don't know, watching videos in English or something. Instructions have to be clear, but I think it's a general recommendation. And create trackers and lists, because it also helps them teach self-control. Self-control is connected with assessment. I mentioned it earlier. For checklists, you can use this website, 365 done. Yeah, so it's actually online checklist maker. You can create a lot of checklists there for yourself or for your students. Yeah, so it could be tracking useful habits, or some challenges. Once I had a challenge for my students not to use their phones, like for a certain, not to use their phones before going to bed. Well, of course, it was a failure from the beginning, but I challenged them. So they had to like not look at the phone 1 hour before going to bed or something. Well, it was a failure, yeah. Complete failure, but well, we tried. Anyway, website is nice. Now, I keep saying how horrible all this age is. Are there any good things about teenagers? Yes, of course. They are less biased in terms of, not actually only gender, probably I should write more things here. They are generally not biased. Modern teens are very, open-minded. Let's say much more open-minded than I am, for example. They have, what I noticed and what I read, they have a higher sense of justice, for things. It's right, it's not right, it's correct, it's not correct. And they're so sure about it. You can use it. It's sad that teens have a higher sense of citizenship, belonging to a community. I think this is questionable for Russian students. But like other students of other cultures, that's the case, what I read. They are open to new things, actually. So with adults, if you bring completely new thing and they need to be flexible and they need to change routine, they might get, a bit skeptical. With teenagers, you change, you switch, you are flexible, fine. They are always fine with that. And it's connected with their brain plasticity. At this age, brain plasticity is very high. So flexibility is good for them. Yeah, 4 main rules that I would recommend when you work with teens, in addition to what I said. Acceptance, challenge, safety, and choice. I will quickly mention what I mean. As for acceptance, let me open these things and tell me, does it sound like an accepting teacher to you? We often think about our students in terms of should. because we think that you're like a grown up already, right? You should be responsible. You should do this. You should be that. How accepting does this sound to you? To me, it doesn't sound very, accepting.
Sometimes we even say you have to, not should.
Oh yeah.
Or you must.
Or you must, yeah. There is no other choice for you. So of course we would say that, and of course we need to set boundaries. Remember what I started with. But what I say is that you need to accept many things here. There are a few things you might be, trying to accept. So you might accept the fact that they have their life outside of the classroom, and it's not only about English, right? And maybe English is the last thing, actually, unfortunately, they're interested in. You probably have to accept that they will be bored, demotivated, discouraged, and lazy, and not interested. And yes, they will not do their homework. I think maybe we need to lower our expectations a bit. What often happens, the easier you react to something, the better the results become. So the moment you start being chilled, like, yeah, okay, they're like, okay, I actually can do that. So it can be the opposite reaction. Then probably you need to accept that their performance might depend on their mood. For example, just last week, I gave a mock test of B1 exam to my student to see whether he can manage it at all or not, because he wants actually to do TOEFL, but he's a very low level. So I decided to start with B1. We agreed that he will do it. So he comes to class. I ask him, Ilya, where is the result? I mean, you haven't sent me anything. Do you know what he told me? I have depression. I couldn't do it. I said, oh, really? Tell me more about it. Why are you depressed? And he said, well, I failed. He actually failed a very important Olympiad on economics, Siros по экономике. And he's into this. He's all into economics. He doesn't care much about English. And he was really sad. And he said, I just couldn't do it. I was upset. Again, is it good? Well, of course not. But at least he shared why. It was emotional, Of course, he could have been just lazy. I don't know if he has done it yet or not. We'll see next class. If he doesn't do it again, of course, I'll talk to parents or something. I'll have to do something about it. Now, when you know more about teenagers, maybe you need to accept different things about them, and that, different bursts of emotions, and just accept that teenagers might be like this. And maybe you shouldn't be angry when they are late, or you shouldn't be surprised when they do something. Now I'm much more tolerant to what teenagers are. In the past, I would take things personally. He's late. Oh, he doesn't like my classes. He doesn't do homework. Oh, my classes are not interesting. Or he's lazy. Now I'm like, he's late. He's late. That's all. There is no other, snowball of my, like worries or blame or whatever, guilt. And remember, I said that I can share my emotions. If I really feel that it frustrates me or makes me angry, I can kind of say something. Guys, it's just impossible. Why are you doing this? It gets me so, I don't know, frustrated or something. I can say that. I see no problem actually sharing. Now, what else? As for point number 2, after acceptance, it was challenge. But it's not only challenge, it should be challenge and surprise. Play games with them, of course, they like games. Competitions. However, what I noticed, games and competitions work better with younger teens. Older teens, they have this attitude, I'm too old for this. I don't want to play. Okay, you don't want to play, let's do boring grammar then. You don't want to play. Yeah. I noticed that when they're younger, they are okay to stand up and move, and do the mingling. at certain age, there is this period when they would be like, can I please sit? I'm too tired. Again, it's up to you to decide. You can let them sit, or you can still ask them to stand up. I promise to explain why it happens. Very often, because of hormones and because of body growth, a lot of energy is kind of spent on growth, development, and internal, body changes. And a brain just gets least, energy. And that's why they're tired. They're physically tired. Usually it happens with kids who grow very quickly, with boys, when you see this huge boy who is sitting, like this with zero energy because they're just tired. It's okay. It might happen. The opposite is because of this hormonal boosts, they get super active. Boys who can't sit still, they're always making noises and stomping feet, and because they have too much energy. So these guys, you make them stand up and move and do stuff. Those who are tired, let them sit. It's also possible. Just organize activities where some people can sit, some people should move. So watch your kids, you will see. I had a boy, if he had a ball, he would be playing with the ball in class. He just couldn't sit still. He had too much energy. And I had another one who would be always like this, a bit like a doll, hanging from somewhere. And he was so tired all the time. Teenagers would be okay with unexpected things, as I said. They would love if you use, of course, technology and different devices and social media, because that's the language they speak, right? Unfortunately, modern teenagers don't speak the language of Beatles. That's the language I speak, or the language of Harry Potter, because it's a little bit too old already. My teens would say, Kate, Harry Potter, that's like old. Why? We don't care about Harry Potter. We care about, I don't know, Wednesday, right? So you need to keep up, unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know. And they are okay to do things they've never done before, also. And also, what is good here, it's not exactly challenge or surprise, but I still put it here. They would love when you fail as an expert. Oh, they will love when you fail. And I think it's actually cool. I can even pretend that I don't know something and I fail because I would be like, oh, look at me. How stupid am I? They would be like, Kate, how could you? Something. So, it's a bit of, again, manipulation, but you can really fail as an expert and it's fine. They will correct you. They will be happy to correct you. Or you can pretend that you don't know and they will explain something like, oh, really? How does this work? I don't know. I'm stupid here. So they would love to teach you because it means the authority, power, change of power. Surprise them with music, with different seating arrangements. I don't know. If you never work in a certain pattern, just do it. Surprise them. Bring weird stuff like ambiguous images or something you've never, again, done. If you never use mobile phones, bring mobile phones, let them do that. So whatever, surprising for your classroom, you can do that. Teenagers usually appreciate it. Here it's an example how I use, it comes from Toastmasters. I don't know if you're familiar with that. Toastmasters, it's an organization that helps people to develop public speaking skills. It's usually in business companies. I use Toastmasters to give my students different roles for public presentations. And some of these roles can be challenging. It's also about assessment. So I can say that, okay, some of you will be a grammarian. So you listen for grammar. Yeah, I'm trying to. Yeah, grammarian. Some of you would be, I can give a role of a vocabulary person. The favorite role actually is counter. It's a person who counts all these sounds. And what can be challenging for you, by the way, and surprising for them, it's when you ask them to evaluate you during some time. They'll be happy to see where you make mistakes how many R's and other things, other problems you have. So it's actually fun. It's about, again, being not maybe an expert in something. Right, what else I wanted to say? My problem is always that I have huge presentations, but I'm trying to say everything I wanted. And about safety. Of course, normally learning would be scary. Different students might have different fears, typical fears: fear of making a mistake, fear of looking stupid, fear of showing that you don't know something, fear of being evaluated publicly, especially. That's why all this come to the board and show us or present might be very frustrating. Again, if you see that your students are reluctant to do that, maybe you need to be careful here. So I would stick to, again, very safe and accepting classroom, where it's okay to make mistakes and it's okay to express opinions, even stupid ones. And it's okay to ask stupid questions. And it's okay to lose motivation and not to be interested. So, I mean, many things are okay. Because of this, they get more open and they are less afraid to make mistakes and they have less fears. It doesn't happen immediately. It usually happens, well, in some long-term relationship with your students. But still, I think it's important to keep this in mind. And choice, finally, the last point, choice is, it could be real choice. You really ask them, like, what would you like to do now? Would you like to play a game? Or we have some time. What would you like to do? They might say, oh, please let us go. Can we go home? or it could be predetermined choice. Predetermined choice, it's also good for parenting, for parents. You know what it is?
Yes.
What is it, Natalie?
So you say, do you want to play a game or watch a video, for example?
Yeah.
So they have a choice. They cannot say that they want to go home.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But also predetermined choice, it's often about things they normally would say no to. If you give them watch video or play a game, usually they are okay to do both. Predetermined choice works good. For example, imagine a child doesn't want to eat vegetables, but you say, okay, would you like cucumbers or broccoli for dinner? And he's like, oh, well, cucumbers. And he wouldn't eat any vegetables if you asked openly. The same with in the classroom. For example, they hate grammar. And you ask them, would you like to do grammar in Galiciansky, online, online exercises, or round up, or play a game? You don't ask, would you like to do grammar? No, of course not. You see, you give them something they normally would say no, but you give options. Yeah. And usually, again, it's manipulation, and they would be like, well, okay, let's do round up. And you give, sorry?
A choice without choice.
Yeah, choice without choice, predetermined choice, exactly, yeah. It works. It actually works with kids, with teenagers, even with adults. It's, again, manipulation. Important thing, it's also like random things I would also mention. Giving back the responsibility works very nicely with kids. Oh, sorry, not kids, teenagers, of course. Instead of saying that I don't like your paper, I don't like something, you say, are you satisfied with the result? You ask them, you give back responsibility to them. You'll be surprised, very often they say, actually not, right? They start thinking, for the first time, they start thinking, am I happy with what I did? Do you think you could have done a better job? Again, you're not telling them anything, you're just asking. And again, it's okay to ask, right? Would you like to improve your answer? Would you like to get a second chance? This is different from when you tell them, okay, you need to do it again, or you need to do this correction, whatever, работа над ошибками, right? You ask them, would you like to do that? If they say yes, okay. If no, again, then you'll have to accept. No, then no. They are fine with their poor result. Okay, they take responsibility. If they say yes, you can ask, okay, how can you make your answer better next time? Here you scaffold, you help them. It's not just, okay, go and improve. They don't know how. They already made these mistakes. So you can discuss then, how would you improve? Oh, I can do this, I can do that. You can also get some ideas. Why do you think you've made so many mistakes this time? You can also ask about this. And again, you'll be surprised. I have a student who, he has theoretically good grammar, but when he speaks, it's a mess. And I often ask him, like, Yegor, why do you think you made so many mistakes? You know all this. He starts thinking and he would say something like, I didn't control well, or I wasn't thinking properly, or I got, distracted, I got carried away. So it's interesting. They can be very, how to say, in control of what they're doing. Yeah. Also, my favorite, of course, to use irony and humor. Memes, jokes, funny videos, mockery. Politely, please, okay? I have a few examples here. We're actually finishing. So some funny pictures to the end. It's in Russian, but I like it. Так нечестно. В первый день нельзя. И вообще, у меня завтра день рождения. Поздравляю, 2. It's fun for me. I mean, it's empathic from the side of the teacher, but it's also, sorry, let me turn off this clicking noise. But it's also fun, right? Поздравляю. Okay, why not? Also, all this, when a teacher, all this situation when a teacher draws something, I like drawing, and then making some comments. I think it's fun. Or this one, George Hans has been awarded the Bermuda Triangle Award for most homeworks go missing. I mean, this is pedagogical, but ironic, right? At the same time, I love it. This is my style completely. I would mock them and a bit make fun of them. Or before exams, because I have Instagram, I always post, and I know my students follow me, my university students, and they would choose a meme. Exams going on, and I know less than Jon Snow. If you don't study for the exam, you shall not pass. Whole year, night before exam, during exam, after exams, after results. So they would pick the favorite meme or something. So I use this. I even ask my teenagers to create memes, There are these meme generators, they can create memes. So to finish up, what not to do when you teach teenagers? Don't treat them as kids. I mean, as real kids. Oh, thank you for doing this. Come on. Talk as if they were older than kids. But do not treat them as real adults, because if you think they're adults, you expect too much of them. You have to do it. You need to be responsible. You need to control. You need to manage. Come on. They need, but they don't know how. They were just kids 2 years ago. I mean, why would they know? So teach them, right? Do not get too personal if they don't want to. Tell me about your parents. Tell me about your cat. Tell me about this and that. If they don't want to tell them, well, they will not. Like my student, I don't want to talk about it. So I started sharing my story. He started sharing back. So do not hide your emotions and to try always to be in good mood. We mentioned that. So I don't think it's a good strategy. And of course, do not ignore students' emotional states. We also mentioned that. Also, do not arrive late to class, constantly, because that's the power balance. They will think you do not respect them, teenagers. And they will say, she can be late, I can be late too, right? And do not keep them late, because again, that's disrespectful. They will feel as if you are invading their personal life and space and time. My colleague, it's extracurricular classes, she keeps them 15, 20 minutes late. Can you imagine? It's like half another class. It's impossible for them. And for me, but she keeps doing it. Horrible. Of course, do not label your students like, you're stupid, you're clever, you're this, you're that. That's very tricky, not ethical. Don't do that. Don't lose your cool when they do something to, trigger you. Now you know that teenagers are special people, so they will trigger you, so don't lose it. You can say to yourself, yeah, I know, they're just, frontal lobe is not developed. Their frontal lobe is not there yet. So to explain it to yourself and just chill, okay? Don't be too authoritative or bossy because, again, too many boundaries, remember? Wouldn't work. Don't give a lot of talking the way I do now, but that's a different format. The moment you keep talking, they lose it. They would be like, my phone seems more interesting than all this, whatever. Too much talking, teacher talking time is never good for teenage classrooms. Involve them more, okay? Don't give too easy or too difficult tasks. For teenagers, very important because their motivation is very shaky. They are challenged too much. They're like, no, I don't want to do that. It's too easy. It's like, it's boring. It's always, we're always walking on the eggshells here. And do not ignore students' interests. Of course, that's obvious. And I wouldn't limit myself to particular resources because it's all, we have a lot of stereotypes, limitations. They should only speak English. I mean, what if they switch to Russian sometimes? Is it so bad? What if they want to say something, they say it, and then they come back to English? It's fine. I don't limit myself to the course book or the curriculum. I try to be flexible because I don't want them to be bored, and I also don't want me to be bored. And it's a good idea too. As I said, let them feel more competent than you. Share your passion of English. Because the more you like it, the more they will actually like it. That's a contagion effect. Yeah. They start thinking, why is she so passionate about it? Maybe there is something about it. Maybe I should be passionate too. Sometimes I even say things like, oh, I love this word. They would be like, what do you mean you love this word? But that's a great word. I love it. And they, okay, maybe it's a good word. Something like this. So it could be passion about things or words or phrases. Of course, remember personal information that they share. Once I had this situation, the girl said that she is having a math test, and next class, I forgot to ask her how it was. And she was like, Kate, don't you remember? I had a math test I was worried about. And I'm, oh, sorry, Pauline, I'm sorry. Of course you had a math test. How did it go? Of course I forgot because I have too many students, but it's good to remember. Give them a reason to be in your class. It's fun. It's interesting. You discuss interesting things, or why they should come. What's the purpose? For teenagers, they need to know why. I mean, not just because you have ЕГЭ. Okay, thank you very much. Right. So, and make them interested outside of the classroom. Obviously. Yeah. And as I said, make yourself available. That's more like psychological side. Well, I guess that's it. As for books, some of them are in Russian, some of them are in English. All of them are really good. Gipinreiter, of course, that's more like psychological part. Vygotsky, well, obviously, you know Vygotsky. Dima Zitser, that's more like a modern author. He has a lot of talks on YouTube. I actually like to watch him more than to listen. No, more than to read. As for teaching books, Ekaterina, wonderful book, pretty big. It's built like this. It gives you tips for every topic, 10 tips. So for example, I don't know, 10 things that teenagers value in teachers. 10 ways that teenagers are different from adults. 10 ways to motivate, la, 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 la. It's all 10 ways here, 10 ways there. Very good book. Ekaterina, the red one. Strongly recommend. The book on the left, bottom left, Understanding Teenagers in an ELT Classroom. This is Chris Rowland. The book is huge. Also has a lot of unusual tips. Not very structural and difficult to find things here, but a very nice read. Okay. And in the middle, teeny tiny book by Herbert Puchter. This one. 101 tips for teaching teenagers. There are really 100 tips. Why I like it, easy to read. One tip for one page. If you're not a big fan of big books and big reading, that's for you. You can pick one tip and use it, every class. It could be a challenge, whatever. And I'll send you the presentation, so you'll have links, things that I watched and read while preparing. There are some online webinars that I would recommend. If you're interested more in psychology, Lyudmila Petranovskaya, of course, classical. Dima Zitsera mentioned. Number 5, one of my most favorite psychologists, Vika Dmitrieva. For parents, best of the best, really. And some other stuff here. Yeah, and that's it finally. My timing today wasn't very good because I wanted to say too many things. So maybe I haven't answered some of your initial questions. Maybe there are some more, or you want to discuss something quickly. Please. I hope that was useful.
That was.
Thank you. So I mentioned about homework, yeah, so students don't do homework. As for bored, I also mentioned why, so I hope I answered at the beginning. Yeah, I remember someone said they are bored. First of all, it's okay. So they might be bored. I would here ask myself why I'm so worried that they will be bored. It's probably about you. You have some maybe limiting beliefs here, They are bored, so it means I'm not a good teacher. Maybe that's the problem. Technically speaking, if they're bored, it can happen, it's fine. Yeah, what else you mentioned? Let me look at the chat. So if there are questions, please ask me. There was another one, why they don't want to interact. What I would do, my favorite strategy is always negotiating. So you ask them to work in pairs, they say, I don't want to work in pairs. I say, okay, I understand you completely, but can we do it just today and just for 5 minutes? Is it manageable, do you think? Is it possible? Usually they say yes. And then you say, and I promise next time you'll work with another partner. Negotiate. Tell them that I hear you. Okay, you don't want to do it, I understand. Okay. Can we please do it just quickly today or for a limited period of time? Or you can explain why it's necessary. So let them know that you hear them. I often say, okay, I understand. I can even say, yeah, grammar is boring. Of course it's boring. Come on, I hated grammar when I was younger. But grammar is necessary. Yeah, I know. So can we still do it? Yeah, okay. So if you negotiate, eventually they will, they just want to get heard. They want you to, tell them, I see you, I feel you, I understand you. And then they'll be happy to do what you want, actually, rather than you fight, all the time and do this clash of opinions. And that's my strategy. It fails sometimes, of course, but that's what I would do. Yeah. I think I answered all the comments I saw.
Yes, Kate, thank you for your great session. And I don't have any questions. I just have a lot of, stars just that I marked my
Notes.
pages. Yes,
Thank you.
And just I'm going to use them. Maybe they are not teenagers yet. They're like 10, 11 years old, but I would like to try something with them.
Yeah, absolutely. They are getting into teenage, and sometimes it happens so quickly, then like, oops, and then they're already there. So yeah, of course, it still can work. If you don't have questions now, feel free to reach out and ask me. I answer faster on Instagram rather than email, because email is always packed with student questions, university stuff. So if you want to get in touch, I guess Instagram would be easier. Yeah, and if later you want to, ask me something on psychology or methodology altogether, you know how to find me.
Are you in VK?
No. I'll tell you more. I can't even reach my profile anymore because I don't remember the password, and I try to enter, and it's like nightmare. It keeps blocking me again and again. So I just give up. I'm on Facebook rarely, but mostly Instagram now, because I don't have time for all the media, unfortunately. Yeah. Well, then I guess we can stop. I wish you a good day, everyone.
Thank you.
I'm having an exam in an hour at university, so I have exam session, exam week. I don't know, maybe you also super busy these days. So thank you for spending time, and yeah, I'll see you maybe somewhere someday.
Thank you very much. We were happy to see you again.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye, bye, everyone.
See you.
Bye.